university, you sometimes hear of research projects which are so unusual, your credibility is tested to the limit. If you can believe it, intelligent buildings are not stuff of science fiction, but something quite feasible. Mohammed Nadim Adi tells us more.
My research is basically about interactive buildings. I'm from an architectural background myself, so for me this is a new area. It's more or less in architecture. There's always the inclination to view the building as something you do, and it doesn't have any feedback to you. What I'm trying to do here is give a building a more active role in the whole design process. The whole project began with the idea of architecture being something more than a passive box you sit down inside and live in or work in. The whole idea started with the architecture being a more active member in a group and seeing how that affect your performance. So that was the main idea that prompted the project. Think about giving a building a personality, and how would that affect the relation between the user and the building. Basically, the preliminary work was we did a couple of experiments, very basic, but just to get the general feel of people being inside the virtual building when it's active and see how they like it or not. And basically, most of the feedback we got is that people prefer being in an active building rather than your regular everyday one. Hopefully having a building that can adapt to the users, basically. Having a building that can do multiple functions really well. Some of the practical purposes come in the entertainment sector. A better experience of films. We've been having some interest in that, and more interest is coming from the health sector as well, and treating cases such as autism or attention deficit disorder and that sort of things. In theory, everything can work, but in real life you need students. I'll need students and other people to come in and test what I'm doing, and that's an essential part in any research, basically. And basically, I build a building model. I load it into the Octave, and students would come in, test it, have a look around it, and tell me how they feel in general, in terms of comfort level, in terms of how would they feel studying in such spaces. And more or less, the comments are more or less are promising. A lot of them are giving me comments like they think they can concentrate more in such environments, which is very helpful, and it gives you that extra bit to keep on going. The major problem is actually having a good environment to test it in, because you can't go on building large-scale buildings for experimentation and testing them online or in facilities like the Octave we have here. Also has its problems, because a lot of people would say, well, it's not the real experience. What if I don't like the building in real life? And that's always the major problem. The Octave is a facility we have here in Salford University. It's basically it's similar to a cave, but it has more projection screens, and it's a room that you, more or less in a nutshell, it's a room that you walk into with projectors for every surface within it, so you get a better enclosure inside a virtual environment rather than just looking into a screen. The Octave has been running for about a year now, and the initial stages started about a year and a half ago. Well, hopefully in a couple of years' time, I'm hoping to, I'm very confident that we will be able to produce a prototype, a working prototype, and with enough experimentation, I think that would be good enough for us to have concrete evidence of what we're doing. Cost is the main issue here. A lot of people say, well, the building will cost considerable amount more than than your everyday type of building. But then again, you'd have a building that would be operational and still generate interest within it for two or more times longer than a normal building, which, if you look at the long run, it kind of evens itself out, if not even more cost effective. Interactive architecture is something that's coming up. That's kind of the flavor of the month thing that's happening in architecture. But nobody looks at architecture as something that you engage as an active member. Everybody looks at it as the box that engulfs everything. No one looks at it as something that you talk with or have a conversation with. And that's the idea that got the whole project running, basically. Hopefully, in the future, we will be able to have conversations with buildings, and the buildings will be able to cater to our needs better. And that's the major hope, basically. But at the moment, we're just trying to prove bits and pieces of this whole theory in order to take it forward.